Did you know that today I'm going to read for you a poem that I wrote before my interview with my lovely guest? The poem is called Your Love is Your Legacy, and it reads, As we think about legacy, may we know it's crafted in high times, but more so in low. Legacy is built in our daily deeds. It's a painting that's uniquely you or me. Legacy is scripted each calendar day in the way that we live and give love away. Legacy is nonfiction, devoid of pretense. It's real and raw, based on true life events. It's not what we get, and it's not who we best. It's how we live what we give and how we leave the rest. May your legacy include rising above division and fear to be a life lived with love. And that again is a poem I wrote called Your Love is Your Legacy. Let me introduce today's guest, Christina Joy Whittaker.
Yeah.
Well, where are you today, by the way?
I'm in Atlanta. I appreciate you being okay with me getting back a little later. My mom is in town. My dad planned a birthday trip that was kind of last minute, and he didn't inform me that I was central to this plan happening. So I was like, oh, right, okay.
Wow. Cool. I love it.
Perfect.
If you could just say and spell your first and last name for me so I have it right.
Sure. My name is Christina Joy Whittaker, Christina Joy, two T's, Aker.
You have such a beautiful name. And is Joy your middle name or is there any other name?
Joy's my middle name.
Joy is my middle name. Who gets to say that and have it be real? You do.
I do. I do.
Well, the name of this podcast, I decided to call it by my middle name.
Did
And
you?
so, yes, so it's a word that most people have never heard, or if they've heard
Okay.
it, they haven't heard it spelled this way. It's Voreen,
Maureen.
Voreen, like Ben Vereen, the tap dancer, except he's
Wow.
Vereen.
So what
Anyway,
prompted that decision?
it was twofold. Number one, it wasn't taken. It wasn't taken.
That's a
Nobody
good
else had a
reason.
podcast by
That's
that
a good
name.
reason.
And number two, it kind of gets to the heart at what I'm hoping to do here, which is just to
Mm.
get to know people a little bit better. And
Hmm.
sometimes even something as simple as a middle name can
Hmm.
open a conversation to getting to know
Mm.
each other better. Well, so let me
Hmm.
ask you that. Does anyone else in your family have the middle name Joy or the first name Joy?
No one else in my family has the middle name Joy. It's so interesting. I've had more of a love now, but especially growing up, a very much a love-hate relationship with it. I loved my name. I never, resented being named Christina Joy. I think the implication, though, of when you hear someone's middle name is Joy, that they are giddy and happy and gregarious and outgoing and all of those things. And I never necessarily felt that way. I'm pretty straightforward. I'm pretty even keel. And so it felt like a mismatch a lot of times. And people would weaponize it, being like, your middle name is Joy. You should be Joy. You should be this. You should be that. Right. But as of late, I think I've started to understand that it was by no coincidence that that was my middle name. I feel like for joy, it's been a journey to be intentional about finding it.
That's super fascinating that all of that can come from
A name.
a label you were given
Hmm.
that was given to you.
Hmm.
And speaking of that, and since your mom's in town, have you ever asked your parents about why they chose your name?
I have, and I need to ask that question again. I know where Christina came from. So Christina came from a dream my mom had. She was dreaming and she saw a little girl, I believe, and her name is Christina. And so that's how I definitely know my first name came about. Man, she's right upstairs. I have to ask her again, like, why joy, or where did the joy come from? If I had to extrapolate and just guess, my dad is a preacher, my mom is a teacher, and they are very, very intentional about imparting morals and faith. And so I know faith was always an important part of their journey and their foundation and how they came to be, and they wanted to make sure that we understood that as well. And so my middle name is Joy. My little sister's middle name is Faith. My brother, he's named after my dad's middle name, but still a biblical name, Samuel. So I mean, we all have different aspects that reflect our belief in our name.
I love the intentionality in all of them.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
and maybe like you said, maybe it has given you some direction. Maybe it's a bit of a
Mhm.
guiding light to think, okay, joy is at my center of who I am.
Yeah, I used to see it as something that was so fleeting, right? But its principle in that it is persistent. It is something that is resilient, even in spite of, is something I've learned to value. And now I can say, this is something that will not go away from me. I believe in God's presence, there's fullness of joy. And I'm like, I want the fullness. Don't give me half. I want all of it.
Oh, I want all of it too for you and for me and for all of us.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
When we met some years ago in Arizona, I
Hmm.
immediately was drawn to you. We ended up sitting next to each other at a table.
Yes.
But later, there was an opportunity for people to
Hmm.
give an impromptu presentation, and you did
Hmm.
it. You
Hmm.
you stepped up and you did it, and you did it with such confidence. And I was so admiring of you for that. I love that you just said your mom's a teacher and your dad's a preacher.
Hmm.
And I just wonder, was the confidence that I perceived something that you felt? And if
Hmm.
so, have you had to cultivate that? Or do you feel like you had a good amount of confidence coming up?
Hmm. That's such an interesting question. Like you mentioned, my upbringing was, I won't say it was unique, but it was incredibly impactful in how I see life and how I navigate through life. I am the daughter of a preacher and a teacher. Those are two people who talk a lot and care a lot, right? Like you do that for a living. You are speaking, you are caring on people, you're loving, you're serving. And I saw that and I learned that firsthand. And so something that I learned early on was that you are living life not just for you, right? Like it's not just for your own selfish means. It is to impact others. It is to do great things. And it's something that I carried with me all throughout my upbringing. And I do think spoke to the development of confidence in a certain sense. I have always been someone who some would call it a truth teller, right? Like when I say it, if I say it, I'm saying it for a reason. But the reason why I bring up my upbringing is because I do think there are different stages of development that you learn different things about yourself. So growing up, I was very confident in my capability and my knowledge and my smarts. I knew I was smart. I knew I could figure things out. I was lauded for that. I was praised for that. But in other areas, they were underdeveloped because I didn't want to try them. So in reference to anything that caused me not to lead with my intelligence, but caused me to actually just be accepted for my presence, that was a whole different dynamic. You would think you were meeting two different people. I used to always say in high school, you would vote me class president, but you wouldn't invite me to a party. And quite frankly, that was my reality. I was class president. And I also didn't go to parties because I only knew how to share the parts of myself that I thought would be safe, which was how I thought, how I talked. And so I was confident in that realm, but not so confident in just who I naturally was and how I was naturally gifted. However, there's another flip side of confidence that perhaps confidence isn't the word for it. It's courage, it's leaning in. And so that day in Arizona, when you saw that confidence, that was more so courage. I had recently or within the last few years experienced job loss for the very first time in my life. I was one of the highest ranking Black women on a senior executive team for a nationally ranked company. And within a day, I lost it all. And what I didn't know was a lot of my confidence, which was fleeting, was in something that was rented. It was in titles, it was positions, it was in things that were lent to me, but not created for me. I was not confident or even knowledgeable of what I could create and own for myself. And so in Arizona, when you saw me on that stage, I was in motion, but I was taking actions in alignment with who I knew I was going to become. And so, was I confident in knowing that my voice was needed in the room? Yes. Was I also incredibly intimidated and fearful? Also, yes. Right. But I was going to do it anyway. I was going to give greater voice to who I was becoming than who I was in that moment.
What a beautiful and thoughtful answer.
When I think about the women who I work with on a regular basis, I was just looking at some of our data. The average age of our clientele is somewhere between 50 to 55 years old. And I'm so honored at being able to walk with women through that journey because it takes so much courage to say, I have spent years believing I was one thing, and I am willing to make a decision that is alignment with who I think I am called to be. It takes courage to actually give yourself the permission to say, hey, I actually maybe was that for a season, but I am different now. Something that I've loved about this entrepreneurial journey is to be able to use what I consider a very natural gifting to see beyond what people can see for themselves, right? So if you give me the inklings of a dream, I'm going to tell you what it's going to be, right? Because I can see the potential, I can hear it, I can pick it out. It takes me moments to understand where it is that you're going, and I fall in love with it, and I want to get you there as well, right? Because it's so beautiful. And being able to take people's scattered thoughts and to show them this actually was woven without throughout the tapestry of your entire life, and it's building a beautiful end result for you, and seeing that light bulb go off in their head like, I didn't even know this could go together. I didn't know my years of corporate experience could also tie in with my love of fitness, which also ties in with my, it can, right? Because it's all part of you for that reason. And it's one of my greatest joys, literally one of my greatest joys, helping people connect the dots in those ways.
Just speak a little bit about what it is that you do
Mhm.
and what motivates you to do that type of work.
I help people, especially women, make life-changing decisions, life-shifting decisions. When they are ready to take all of that they've learned and experienced, and they're ready to say, I'm ready to own my own story. I want to build on my own. I want to build a brand on my own. I want to launch this venture on my own. That's when women call me. That's when people call me. When they're like, you know what? This thing has been nagging at me for so long, but how do I put it into words? How do I say what I'm good at? How do I say what is in my head that I can't yet actually see and translate it into something that people understand? That is my favorite thing to do. I love
Alchemy.
taking and it is God-breathed vision. Like, I love being able to see or to hear what you think doesn't have a through line, and to show you that actually it's something that showed up at the beginning of your days, and it's going to extend, and it's going to be your legacy. And so where a lot of women get stuck is that you'll look at what you have, right? You'll look at the disparity. You'll look at the contradictory nature of what you have. Like, well, I jumped jobs a lot, or like, I stayed at home to be with my kids for this time, so I'm out. We find so many things to dismiss us from our conversation, or dismiss us from even thinking that there is value or something on the other side. And that dismissal allows us to be permissive of staying stuck. It allows you to stay in a space that you know is in contention with where you want to go. I just know I want it, but because I can't paint the picture right now, I shouldn't have it. Not true. Not
You
true.
and you help people paint that picture.
I help people paint that picture because clarity comes after you take the step. You are called, then it gets clear after you start moving. And so, what we want is to have all the answers up front. That will keep you stuck in operating in your capability. So, I have a framework where I believe there's kind of two different segments of your life. There is a space where you learn how to be very capable. That means you learn how to be really good at what you do, you learn your skill sets, you learn, how to package your skill sets in a job. You learn how to get hired. You learn what people need from you very well. That is operating in your capability. But everyone has a time when you are invited to operating in your calling. When you are operating in your calling, that is something that you are made to do. When you are operating in your capability, that's something you've built for yourself. And the cost of entry to shift from capability to calling is always going to be courage. It is the courage to let go of what you built in favor of entering a space that you were literally made for. And that is terrifying. And it's that middle period where we fight. We give ourselves permission to stay confused.
So calling, then
Calling
clarity, but in the middle, courage.
in the middle, courage. And really, I call it the murky middle. And I have an issue when people call it the messy middle. I'm not saying that people don't go through different stages, but I do think the women who I work with, right, they've lived life. They're not beginners. They know what they know. The issue is not where things are placed, right? When something is messy, you're looking for things. You've lost something. When something is murky, you know where everything is. You know where your skill set is. You know what you can do. You know where it is. It's clarity that's the issue. It's cloudy. You don't know what to do with it. And people are so busy trying to clean things up because they think it's messy that they're trading sorrow for sorrow. It's not going to work. What you need is for something, a path to be made through the dark. And the only way you can get that is by taking a courageous step. And typically it's taking a step that, and you don't know the outcome, but you just know who you are supposed to become. And that is enough. I myself, I know we hinted at it. I got laid off and never saw myself on this path. The only thing I knew about myself was I knew I liked my check every 2 weeks. I built a corporate career. I started in Big Four consulting, was working for some of the biggest contracts in the world. I was working, the federal government was my client, switched into entertainment. I was working at one of the largest entertainment companies, Walt Disney, company at with executives at Walt Disney. I was at those levels. I went from there into doing corporate consulting where my clients were Vanity Fair, the NBA. I had a life. I had built a life that people envied. I had built a life that people always ask, how do I get it? How do I access it? And what I had to realize was that I had built a life that I was miserable in. And I didn't want to admit it because I didn't know how I got there. Because I made choices that I thought were great. I got the good job. I got the degrees. I got good grades. I got promoted. I did the things. And so why am I miserable? And because I was not willing to actually acknowledge the fact that this is a miss, that I am not feeling that what I have built is something that I now feel like I don't want or I've outgrown because I was not willing to sit down and actually intersect with that. I kept going, as a lot of us do. You keep doing and you get stuck in a cycle of misery upon misery when you don't acknowledge that you are actually trapped in a prison because we make it look nice. I got my six-figure salary. I got my clients. I got to work. This is pre-COVID, got to work from home. Like I got the things, right? Um, and I couldn't be more unhappy. as a result, it started manifesting in my body. Like my hair started falling out of my scalp. I started having depressive episodes. In a single year, I gained over 60 pounds. I was unrecognizable and didn't even realize I was slipping away. The closest thing I could say about that experience was I literally felt like life was leaving my body every day. And I was so scared to admit it because I wasn't supposed to feel that way. I had built something that on LinkedIn got a lot of likes. I'm proud to announce I got promoted to senior director of 800 likes, right? Why are you unhappy? Why?
How long do you think you knew that you
Mm.
were unhappy there?
You know what? That's a great question. I think the realization happened day one. I'm not going to lie. And then when I say day one, I mean day one of my first post-college job. I remember sitting in an office or going in, it was onboarding training. We had just finished, and I remember sitting down and I said, oh no,
Oh, no.
what have I done? And I couldn't understand why I felt that way. Now, not everyone's going to be immediate, right? Like sometimes people are in love with it and then you fall out of love with it.
Sure.
For me, I don't know why I had that drop in my stomach. I was like, I don't know if I want to be here. But then because I had no where else would I go? I had nothing. I didn't want to sit with the silence of what that could be. And so I looked for ways to make me feel happy about what I had done. And I got wins. I got great ratings. I got great projects, but each time as I got higher and higher, I realized not so much that I was unhappy, I realized I was never finding it, quote unquote. I was like, well, maybe this will be it. Maybe if I go this particular position and change this time frame, I change this group. I kept trading, right? And for me, I always call it, I affectionately call it the black girl degree, or the black girl vacation when it's like you don't know what else to do, you go get another degree. That's what I did. Like I was like, well, let me go get a grad degree. And so I did. And the accommodation, it wasn't enough. And so that's what we do is we get credit upon credit. We get after job, we get promotion after promotion, chasing what we think is going to be fulfilling. And it's an ultimate betrayal when at every pass we feel more and more empty. And so when I was making decisions, and I didn't feel like there was an alternative, what do? You make nice with what you've built. And I remember one day, you say when I really knew that there was a contention, I was speaking to a woman who was giving me advice. She was senior to me on the team, and I had just had my not my first, but a very public experience of being thrown under the bus. And I can't remember to this day everything that she said, but I remember the end of her statement was, well, that's just how life is. And everything in my body screamed. And I couldn't understand why I was in all out revolt. I could not accept that. But that's what she had accepted. And I looked around and I realized that's what everyone has. And I was so scared because I'm like, well, if I don't want to accept it, where do I go? Because I was also not willing to make a different decision that took me outside of that capability trap. I kept making decisions within it until, quite frankly, I was forced out. I ended up getting laid off. And I remember sitting in the office. I remember them telling me I was getting laid off, and I remember feeling relief. And I had to ask myself, why did it take someone else making a decision on my behalf for me to feel relief?
Sometimes it's easier for people to have the decisions forced upon them than to make them ourselves. I think sometimes it's difficult to have courage from a place of health and well-being, maybe more so than if disease, for example, is forced upon us, like that type of thing. I think sometimes we're just so reluctant to change or
Mm-hmm.
resistant to change,
Mm-hmm.
that if God or the universe wants us to change and we don't, then
Mm-hmm.
I guess the call knocks a little harder, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing about calling. It's people think it's a moment and it's continual. There's always signs. There's always signs. It's a matter of what you choose to value and you choose to pay attention to. So me, my health failing me, it's like, oh, that's forget that. Like I can go to the gym, I can get this off. Me having a panic attack, quite frankly, not being able to breathe, that still wasn't enough. I said, well, I'll figure out how to make it work. And that's what we do. We are trained at making things work. And you don't realize you're grasping on so tightly because you think there's nothing else. And what I would like to tell anyone listening to this is that there is always something greater for you on the other side. And you must believe that. You must believe that and loosen your grasp and understand that letting go is the entry to getting what you are absolutely made for. It is the entry point, it is the cost. And so you have to determine you gave all that you got to be miserable, right? Are you willing to give the same to be fulfilled?
Would you say that that was perhaps the most or one of the most life-changing moments in your life so far?
It definitely was one of the most pivotal. When I got laid off, it made me question everything I thought to be true about me. I say this all the time. Realizing that someone has had the right to make a decision about me without me that literally upended my world, there's a certain level of grief that sets in after that, where you are mourning a broken contract. You're mourning an agreement that you had no choice in terminating. I would advise you not to rush by that because there's so much wealth in unpacking that. I don't even like to always say that the shift was being laid off because afterwards I had a choice, right? I could have gone back the same road. Everything in me was saying, do not go back that way. My natural inclination was to have a job by the end of the week. I had a six-figure salary, I had a six-figure network. People were apologetic that it happened. They were calling me asking, how can we help? How can we help? How can we help? But what I will say is that I was making a conscious choice to honor the possibility at that time. I wanted to honor the possibility of maybe there is one. And anyone who's at that crossroad, you have to understand that it's an invitation. It's an invitation. Are you ready to make a decision, to make a choice that you will be who you say, who you see, who you think, who you feel, even if you don't always have the words for it, that you will be that person and that you just need to make the step. And a lot of us don't want to make it, but oftentimes it's investment. It's investment of something. It's going to cost you something. It might cost you money. It might cost you time. So for me, it cost me my job. For me, it cost me my money because I said, you know what? I want to learn how to do this from someone who's already been there. My gripe with AI at the moment is everybody thinks they're an expert and no one has done anything, right? And so you have to be sure when you are at that crossroads, who has accomplished what I want to accomplish? Who has done this? And when I was starting, that's what I looked for. I looked for examples of people who have done this, and I paid the money. I was not used to paying for mentorship or investment when I was in corporate because I had a corporate someone was paying it for me. I'm like, pay for training. Why would I do that? Because I wanted to get better for me.
And I think it's interesting at that juncture to recognize that there is a point where we need different skills and knowledge. And maybe
Absolutely.
we need to take the time to invest in them, even though we've built up the capabilities and the
Hmm.
knowledge. How did you say it earlier?
If you imagine a diagram on the or it's a timeline, the left side of the timeline is where you build your capability. It's how you figure out what you're good at. It's what you're affirmed for. It's what you learn in your skills. And the currency for operating in your capability is your competency, right? It's just how good you can do something. On the other end, it's all about your calling. And that's something that you may not be able to quite verbalize, but if you feel like you're made for more. What my litmus test for a lot of my clients is when you see a LinkedIn post, how does it make you feel? It's not always envy. Sometimes it's an indication like this is for you too. Press in, learn more. And so for me, when I would see people, even though I wasn't a speaker naturally, I would see people on stages or I would see people operating in these capacities where they would come in and teach and guide and then leave. I'm like, how do you do, who is doing that? How do you do that? I only knew the 9 to 5. I'm like, how are these people doing that? And you have to be brave to ask the question, how? And then who can I find that can help me get there, right? I call it having a Red Sea moment. Are you going to stay on the edge or are you going to cross? Because in the middle, you're going to drown,
Mm-hmm. And
right?
you have
And
to die and you have to become someone new.
yes, and we hold on so hard because it's like, well, if I give this up, then what? I would ask the converse, you're holding on, now what? What is that doing
Mhm.
to you right now? You know? And
That's such a
so
good question.
what I will say is at the beginning of my journey, I thought that was just a momentary decision. I've learned it is absolutely not. There's a process and a blueprint for you to get to a point where you decide who you're going to be. It's about the story you tell about yourself. If you always say, well, I always try, but I always fail, or I did this before, but it didn't work, the story you tell will determine how high you go. And you have to learn a new story. You have
You
to
have to
learn
learn a new
how
story and have the
Mhm.
courage to live it. And
And have the courage to live it.
one thing I really love that you said is that it didn't just happen. Like, okay,
No.
you left that job, you had a choice. Do I continue to pursue corporate or do I decide to pursue something on my own? And
Mhm.
even once you've made that decision, it's very much like the heroine's journey.
Mhm.
You're going to encounter an obstacle and you're going to
Mhm.
encounter another obstacle and another
Mhm.
obstacle.
Mhm.
And it will take you somewhere you haven't been and you will become,
Mhm.
like you said, someone you haven't been. So many of us are living this now. You and I both
Mhm.
come from media.
Mhm.
There's been a sea change in the world of media,
Mhm.
and that's a big broad umbrella, which there's a
Mhm.
lot of distinction underneath that. But
Yeah.
there are so many people who are currently trying to write their new story or
Mm.
write their new future or
Mhm.
create whatever their next future will be because it's
Yeah.
changed. Their
Yeah.
world has changed. And I like murky because they know things are out there, but they
Mhm.
can't see any of
You
it.
can't see it.
And especially for people for whom it's really, really fresh, I
Mhm.
feel for them.
Mhm.
Whether it's because of layoffs or whether because someone's been fired or
Yeah.
something's been made redundant, you're still in the same wilderness. So you had that defining moment in your
I
life. If you could
did.
sort of look back now on that
Mhm.
moment, and I know we're all still figuring things out, what would you say you learned
Mm.
from that experience now with hindsight?
Mm. With hindsight, what I've learned is summarized in one line. Your safety net is not so safe when someone can take it from you. I, I don't believe everyone's supposed to be an entrepreneur. You're supposed to launch, launch, launch. I do think everyone is supposed to own your story. That I deeply believe in. And that's what I'm in the business of, you owning your story. Because if you do not own it, someone else will tell it and they will tell it wrong. And at the beginning, your goal is movement. What I will say is that movement is intentional. Movement also looks like properly grieving what happened to you, especially if it was something that was unexpected. You lost that job. That hurt. There's a
Mhm.
loss there. There's a loss in your maybe who you thought you were in terms of your identity. For me, I liked having money. I liked being able to have money solve problems. I liked the look on people's faces when I said where I worked. I liked people asking me, where are you this week? Because I travel. I loved all of those things, but I twisted them with who I was, right? And I believed at some point I attained the belief that this was me. This was, but it was not. And when those things were stripped away, I was faced with the reality that I didn't know who I was without title. I didn't know who I was without those things that were propping me up. And so I had to unlearn what I had thought I was a master at. I had to unbecome who I thought I was the end state at. I had to learn how to allow myself to experience a new story and to learn new things and to also unlearn habits that were holding me stuck. And it feels like death when you have to unlearn it. And so going down this route was, and people don't believe me. It's antithetical to everything I thought I was ever going to be. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I thought it was the stupidest decision. I said, well, who would sign up for uncertainty like that? I used to hear entrepreneurs talk, and they talked about how they were entrepreneurial from a young age, had lemonade stands, all those things. I did not have those things. I was in line purchasing lemonade. I was not building the stand, right? And so I'm like, why do I feel this way? For me, it was towards entrepreneurship. But someone else, you may be asking, why do I feel like I'm supposed to go for this promotion? Why do I feel like I'm supposed to leave and raise my kids? Why do I feel like I'm supposed to go on this journey abroad? Why do I feel this way? Right? There's nothing wrong with that question. But what I want you to do is not think you know the answer yet, and to allow yourself to be curious. Allow yourself to ask of it, why now? What might be on the other side? But also, after you're curious, commit. And you asked me in hindsight if there's anything I could say, it's to understand that curiosity is a beautiful thing and it's entry that will allow you to learn so much about yourself. But curiosity does not outweigh commitment when you are going to call in. You have to choose. You can't just be curious about something. You have to decide this is for me. You are going to be invited again to decide who ye you shall serve. Who are you going to be a hero to?
Question, because you are
Yes.
brilliant at this. Did you ever contemplate being a preacher or a teacher?
Such a funny question. I think my parents would hug you if
I
if
hug them
they
back.
heard you ask that. Um, did I contemplate that? No. And I think you sometimes when you see your parents do it, it's like, I also see the behind the scenes. No thanks. However, and I say that facetiously, I have been and will always be a teacher. I love to teach. I had to learn that that didn't just mean, my mom's a kindergarten teacher. That did not just mean kindergartners, right? I teach all the time. When I was young, it used to annoy me when I was like 5 or 6, people would treat my words like I was an adult. Like that what Christina said was law. They asked me for counsel, right? And it's so interesting. I'm like, why were they listening to me? I was so young. Why were they asking for my opinion? And
Like
it's because,
Lucy in Charlie Brown, you set up the little
oh
therapy
yes,
room.
yes, that's exactly 5 cents, right? Or how
Five
much did it
cents.
hurt?
Yes.
Yes. That's how you can miss it, right? Because a lot of us are very naturally gifted and you do it without thinking. And so because you're so used to it, you're so familiar with it, you devalue it. It's like, doesn't everyone do this? Doesn't
That is a
everyone
really
get
big
that?
thing.
And it's usually the thing. It's usually the thing that's going to get you into calling. Just because it's natural doesn't mean it's not holy. Just because it's easy doesn't mean it's not calling. There's a certain grace on your life. Everyone is graced to do something different. For me, I love to vision. I love to bring, I can think of someone's messaging in a second. I see where you are going. I can connect the dots for you. I can see your 20 years of corporate experience and your penchant for running and your love for kids and have a business model for you in 30 seconds flat. I can see it. Can I send an email on a regular basis? No, that's above me. I hate it. I'm not graced for that. Like there's different things that people are graced for. And once we stop fighting that, once we understand that therein lies where your true calling is, that's what unlocks our ability to learn and discover how this is going to be impactful. And so if we go back to the model between capability and calling, I said, when you're operating in your capability, the currency for that is your competency, right? When you're operating in your calling, the currency for that is courage. When you're operating in your calling, it's about expansion of capacity. There's no end to where you can go. They are two opposite sides of the spectrum. And when we try to dabble in the middle is when we get all mucked up. So when I say curiosity will get you so far, at some point it must transition into a choice of courage and who you are going to become. It's no longer just, I'll take a chance. No, you are making a choice to make it true. You are making a decision and putting your flag in the sand that this shall be. And you are putting your thoughts, your actions, your beliefs, your steps towards that.
Could you take me to the dinner table of you as a child growing up in your home? Because you have a wisdom about you that is so beyond your years. And I don't even know how old you are, but it's beyond it. It's beyond all of it. And you have a real gift for communicating it in a way
Mm,
that's not only clear, but it hits the soul and it's
mm,
memorable.
mm,
Um, I'm just curious to know a little bit more about the influences of your parents on you.
mhm.
And do they ever get to hear you speak?
They've gotten here to hear me talk all my life. No, I had beautiful parents. They were perfectly tailored for me. I talk about them often because I love how intentional they were, not just with me, but I am we have a family of five, so I'm a middle child. I have an older brother, younger sister. They were so tuned into our uh, unique needs, right? So my brother, for instance, had a speech delay, right? My mom sued the public school system. We were living in DC, saying, "Hey, you don't have accommodation for my kid. You're going to have to pay for specialized training." And she won. And my brother's now a civil engineer, has a family of his own, like man, like all the things. My little sister is a musician, and they made sure she was in art, so they let her go to art school. They let her, go. She got a full ride to Berklee College of Music because they fostered that. For me, I loved talking. I loved being in charge. I loved leading. And so them nurturing that for me was saying, Christina, you cannot go to the neighborhood schools. They will crush you. You have to go someplace where you can talk, where you can express yourself. Right. And so they all, yeah, I remember we would wake up. I grew up in a certain area of DC. We would go to another area of DC so I could be in the best schools. My mom got me into one of the most highly regarded private schools in DC, where I was the head of the leadership team. Go figure, right? Like, they had an ability to see our gifts and to create space for us to cultivate that. And I think especially in a space where you're the daughter of both a preacher and a teacher, you can be in a bubble, right? Like it's not this, but like imagine the president's kids where it's like all eyes on you. You're leading, all eyes are on you, and there's very little room stereotypically for a misstep. And something that I loved about my parents were that they were like their kids. Let them be children. It was just a beautiful time period. We actually did have family dinner every night. Like we had a table. We assembled, we talked, we gathered. I have it's a silly tangent. But my mom loves to cook. She's an excellent cook, right? And I remember freshman year going to college, and someone was like, "Oh, I'm gonna make some mashed potatoes." I'm like, "How? We're in a dorm. Like, what do you mean you're making mashed potatoes?" She's like, "From the box." I'm like, there's a box of potatoes? I had never in my life, even though I had eaten mashed instant come like in hindsight, like at school lunch, it was already
Right.
made. I didn't see a box. I saw my mom peeling potato. So I was like, That's a thing. It's just they, and I say that as
It's
an
beautiful.
analogy for the care. Like when we were very cared for, I was loved, you
I love
know?
that. There's a box.
I promise you, blew my mind. That was the first thing I learned in college was that instant mashed potatoes existed.
Oh my gosh, that is really funny.
I had no clue.
That is the first thing I learned in college.
It is. Oh my gosh. I was like, oh my goodness, that's interesting. Who would have thought?
Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. That just
I think
makes me
that's the first
smile.
time I ever said that story.
I love it. Thank you. You heard it
You're
here
welcome.
first. Um, well, before I get to my final four questions for you, I want to ask, where can people find you on your socials or your website?
Yes, so they can find me at ChristinaJoyWhitaker.com. So that's ChristinaJoyWhi, two T's, AKER.com. That same spelling, if you put an at in front of it, the socials will pop up. So you'll find me on Instagram there. You'll find me on LinkedIn as well, especially LinkedIn. Come say hi. And YouTube as well. Started posting more YouTube videos. And so any one of those platforms you'll be able to find me there.
Wonderful. Okay, so just a couple final questions for you.
Mhm.
These are shorter,
Okay.
but are you reading anything right now? Do you recommend anything in particular?
I have a funny answer for this. So I think this is partially, I blame everything on ADHD, but I think this is partially ADHD. I am a serial book starter, a fairly sporadic book finisher, right? Like I'm kind of like once I get the point, I get the point. Like I understand where this is going. But the genres that I love things that deal with faith and science and the interplay of it. I love that. I love things that deal with like researching how the brain works, how you make decisions, how you operate. I'm just so fascinated in what makes a person tick, what makes a person come into being. And so one of the last books that I really enjoyed was The Garden Within. And I did like get through that. I was like, oh, pat on the back. But that was a great book. But anything dealing with like personal development and the investigation, not just of who you are, but who you are becoming, I think is just something that captivates my attention. So anywhere in that spectrum is where you could typically find me.
I love that answer. And I'm, by the way, I'm a big proponent of not finishing books if it's not,
Really?
if it's not speaking to you. I think there's so many other brilliant books out there in the world. Time
I
is short.
agree.
Find one you love.
See,
So
I'm going to blame you on not finishing books. I'm going
blame
to say,
me.
well, Stephanie said, if it's not bringing me joy, don't finish it.
That's right. If you're not learning, if you're not enjoying it, there's another one that will.
Yes.
Um, Open-ended question. What are you in the middle of?
Mm, you know what? I am simultaneously in the middle of and leading people through a Red Sea moment, I would call it. It is a moment when you know transition is near and you know it's time for a new story and you know it's time for you to go to the next level. You know you don't want to go back to where you were. And even though it looks imposing where you're going, you're ready to have the path made known to you. And I feel very much like I am there. And before that would have maybe inspired some dread and some fear. But because I have a blueprint now, I have nothing but excitement and I'm ready to say, come with me.
What is an act of kindness that you have received anytime in your life, big or small, that you would
Mm.
share with us?
Oh, I love that question. First of all, you asked the best questions. I should have said that earlier in this interview. You ask amazing questions, and I adore you because you make me think about things that are so easy to pass by so quickly, right? Like I have a billion thoughts all the time. And so to stop and be like, a moment of kindness, dang. And you sometimes, I think at certain points in my life, I would have been grasping at straws, trying to identify it. But I'm blessed to be in a time where, as you asked that question, I just saw moment after moment after moment after moment, flash in front of my eyes. But I'll explain two things. One, I had one friend, I was explaining different things that I liked, and I was going on a plane trip like soon after, and he assembled all of those things and had it down to a T. And I was like, how, oh, you listened to me. Like, wow, like that was really nice, right? And I had another friend who knew at the time, like this was maybe when Chipotle was just opening. And I love Chipotle. Build your own Mexican. I was down for it. And he gave me, we still laugh about this. He gave me this pad of graph paper for my birthday. And I was like, what are you doing? What am I going to do with graph paper? But I was like, thanks. And he was just laughing. I was like, why are you laughing? He was like, look on the back. And he had lined the back with Chipotle gift cards, like all throughout the
Oh,
back. It was the sweetest thing.
oh.
And the reason why those two things stick out in my head is because one of the things that I've learned, I had to unlearn, was how I saw myself and my value, that I didn't make a discernible mark on people. I felt honestly a lot of times like I was invisible, that even though I was leading, that people didn't know me, right? And so those moments broke that for me, to say, hey, people see you. And so in any relationship, one of the things I most highly value is just thoughtfulness. Because that's how I show my love, like trying to be intricate and like remembering what you said you needed. And so when I receive it, my heart just leaps. Like, I'm just like, you thought of me in this way? You remember I said this? You just called me because you were thinking about me? Oh my goodness. Like, you have me. You have me there.
It means so much.
It really
And you
does.
are never going to be invisible, by the way.
Thank you,
You
Stephanie.
are
I know
somebody
that
that
now. I did not know that before.
people want to see you, people want to hear from you.
Mm.
Speaking of that, do you like to sing?
Such an interesting question. So, my family, I kind of told you about it before. My little sister is a singer. I didn't tell you my older brother can play any instrument that he puts his hand to. I have a family of musicians. My grandfather used to play backup for James Brown, like he played bass guitar for James Brown. My mom's a singer. My mom and dad met in band, like family of musicians. And then there's me, who played viola for I used to, and I've come to peace with this, but like they used to call me the Great Pretender because I was like literally the real life drum line. I was incredibly good at music and I played by ear, but I didn't know I was playing by ear. My brother was always ahead of me in my classes, so I would listen to him practice and I would copy him. And I didn't know I was copying him, but I fooled professionals for over 7 years. They all thought I could read music, and I couldn't. And so I was exposed one day when I had to play by myself and I had to play first. And I was like, I don't know how to do this. And they were like, we don't know how this happened. Like, I was almost at the top level of our youth orchestra in DC, but she can't read music. And so from then on, I'm like, this is just not for me. I'm not, but I had perfect pitch. I was really great. And so I am proudly a backup singer, but I will say my little sister Angela Faith is proudly a forefront singer, and she sings to the top. She's one of the best singers I've ever heard in my life. She's amazing, and I would advise anyone to listen to her. It's
Angela Faith.
Angela Faith. Yes.
Okay. Does she sell CDs or CDs? I'm
Yeah, she
sorry, I
has
dated
music.
myself.
Yep.
Let me try that one
I
again.
had CDs, Stephanie. I know what you mean. Yes, you
No,
can find her
you
music
can find her.
online. Yes,
Good.
Angela Faith Music, and you'll probably see her singing if you're in the DC area at some event, some gala, somebody's wedding. She's probably the singer.
So when I asked you if you would sing us out today, any song at all,
I would love to hear
that's
you
something you would do?
sing. I think you asked that question because the song is in your heart. And so I would love to hear you sing whatever
Oh,
song is on your heart.
out. I am not a singer. I actually just, there's something really beautiful about when people stop to listen to an a cappella voice. It's just time
Mm.
stops. Time sort of
Hmm.
stands still. You mean there's
Hmm.
not anything that you would sing at church or at home that you'd sing for us?
Well, I think the greatest song is of the maestro, and right now you're the maestro. So have at it.
Oh, yes, I'm the great pretender. No,
Love it.
I heard you say those words earlier. So,
Yes, I had to learn that I was authentic, but a lot of people feel like they're the great pretender.
well,
It's
I'll
time
tell
to give it
you,
up. It's time to be known.
be known, no imposter syndrome. And I'll
No
tell you
imposter
one fun
syndrome.
fact about myself that you didn't ask for, but you said those
I want to know.
words.
I'm asking right now. I want to know this fun fact.
You said those words, the great pretender, earlier.
Mhm.
And I have this tick where if
Mhm.
someone says a word or a phrase and I happen to
Mhm.
know a song that has those lyrics,
Uh-huh.
it takes great restraint for me not to break out, even though I don't sing well.
I don't think you should restrain it. I think you should just let it loose. Who's going to tell you no?
Yeah, it'll be a one and done. You know, it would happen, and then people would be like, "Phew, that does not need to happen again." Christina Joy Whittaker, thank you so much.
We need more voices like you in this world. We need more people who are saying, I want to use my platform to spread kindness, to spread connection.
Thank you for being here for another conversation to connect. I'm not sure if you know, but you can hit the subscribe button where you listen to podcasts so that you don't miss new episodes when they come out. And if you like the show, maybe consider leaving a review. It helps for reach and visibility, and it just lets me know you're out there. Okay, thanks for listening, and keep an eye out for kindnesses. Have a good one.